Broadcasting from Salisbury University campus, this is WSDL Ocean City, NPR News Talk 90.7. Putting Delmarva first. Stay tuned for Delmarva Today with your host, Don Rush.
Wacomico County Executive Bob Culver is seeking a second term, but he's being challenged by an independent from the city of Salisbury. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. Culver is only the second county executive in Wacomico County history. Republicans successfully defeated the Democratic incumbent Rick Pollitt in 2014. This time he could be facing an independent challenge from Salisbury City Council President Jack Heath, who has announced his own candidacy. We have the county executive in our studios this morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you.
So why are you seeking a second term?
Basically, we're not done yet. We have a lot of things we've got started that I'm very proud of, but we still have to complete those things.
Such as?
Such as whether or not we get a hockey team for the Civic Center. We're working on that. We hear back from the coordinators on that in the spring this year. So that's something we want to take forward. We have gotten most of all the remodeling done, and it looks great for anybody who's not had a chance to go see it yet, but it's $3 million worth of remodeling, new carpet, new bleacher seats. It's beautiful inside. So, but we have to keep it going. So we've got to keep the Civic Center alive. There's other projects, Pirates Wharf, for example. We're at the point now where our farm lease is up, so we can go ahead and start actually doing some serious planning with the Department of Recreation, Department of Tourism, as to how to make that grow and become a county park.
So in terms of your advancing an agenda, what kind of accomplishments do you think you've had over the last, say, 3 years?
Sure. We've had a lot of accomplishments. And if you take for the fact, my term, we have built 2 schools. We finished Bennett Middle, and we're now starting on Beaver Run, and West Salisbury is in construction now. So we will have completed West Salisbury during my term, Bennett Middle during my term, and started construction of Beaver Run.
So, turning to education, because you've been really reluctant, as I understand, as I read the reports, to this
Can't
construction
trust everything
stuff.
you read, Don.
Well, the way that they tell me, West Salisbury Elementary, you weren't crazy about replacing that. There were some other things as well with the Board of Education, and you've said he said it's, for instance, at Bennett High School, test scores went down after an $80 million school was built. That's not where the problem is. And I talked to your potential opponent, Jack Heath, who said, well, that's awfully generalization in terms of how one works in terms of the schools, better environments. They should produce some better results along with better programs.
Well, if you'll remember back during the term when Bennett High School was built, that was one of the major reasons that they proposed. It would help test scores, and that did not happen. So let's not use that as an excuse. Let's be honest. It is a better work environment. There's a better learning environment. There's a lot of things that go along with that in a new school. But to say that our test scores are going to go up, that was wrong. That was wrong to be misleading in that point. Do I agree that I want the safest, the most productive schools in the state of Maryland, and I agree to that. I don't think that necessarily the glass and brass, as I have said before, is what makes a good school. We do it with our teachers, we do it with our programs, we do it with our students, and letting them become involved in this. The best thing we have done is we now have higher starting salaries for our teachers than does Worcester County. And, that was going to be a draw to get teachers in. So we have to keep good teachers. That's you've got to have somebody that wants to do the job that they're doing rather than just doing it because it's a paycheck.
But why can't we have both? I mean, why the reluctance to say on the construction end, even though I'm sure there are a lot of people on the county council would say, yeah, we want higher pay,
Sure.
we want the improvement in programs.
We want a lot of things, but we don't get it. There's a problem with money. Sometimes. I mean, we spend over 50% of the county's budget every year on schools. And when you start talking schools, you talk about MOE. You also talk about what it costs for our principal and interest on those bonds. And that is our biggest expense in Wacomico County. Education and public safety is where most of our money goes, probably 90%. It actually is about 90%. 40% goes to public safety, fire, sheriffs, that type of thing, corrections, and the other part will go towards education. When you take in education, you take in Warwick Community College, you take in the library also. So all those things are contributing towards education.
So speaking about education, we have the scholarship for the Warwick folks going to there from here. But you seem now to be at odds with the county council again. What's going on there? Everybody seemed like it was a good idea, but now there's some alteration in terms of grade point average and so on.
Well, the difference lies in the fact that they want to raise the grade point average in order to even get into the scholarship program to 2.5 and also maintain a 2.5 average. Dr. Hoy and myself started our program based on what the state requires, a 2.0. I don't see why we should be going at a higher rate than what the state requires. And my point is we're reaching those economically challenged people that need the help to get in, that never thought they could go to college. And we've had 300 people come to Warwick Community College asking for that scholarship. Now, many of those, almost 270 of them, were switched into other scholarships, Pell Grants, that type of thing. The county has only paid for 39 people, I believe, is the actual figure for that grant so far. We've not used hardly any money up on it. 39,000, I'm sorry, about 25 people. So. Yeah. Of that $252,000 that we put forward, only 39,000 of it has been used up. But we have brought 300 people into Warwick Community College to get an education that never thought they could have an education. That's a winner. I mean, to me, to help somebody that needs the help up is how we're here for. That's what we're here for.
So if you raised it to, say, 2.5, what kind of impact would it have on those students? Do we know?
Yes. Basically, that would be almost 30% of the students that are qualifying for this program now would not qualify through the graduation rate of Wycomico County schools. So in a simpler term, that means 30% of the people that graduate from Y High do not have over a 2.0 average, or Y High or Wycomico County schools. I'm sorry, Y High is my alumni. So.
Well, as a matter of fact, we're talking about the county council, and it's clear from the reporting that there's been lots of stresses going on between you and the council. And you've said, I think I ran across a quote where you said, we tried one time where two council members came in and then they never came back. What's the problem here? I mean, and I make that observation,
Sure.
The fact that
I'm more than
virtually
happy.
Everyone, except for one person on that council, is a Republican. Everyone certainly considers themselves to be conservative, sure. Right? So why this difference?
You would have to be blind not to see this, okay? But we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. We open our doors on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month in the morning, asking the council people to come in. Give me your thoughts. Give me what do you want to change? What does your district need? I can't be in every district every day. And I say, well, what do you need in that district? It came in one time. We had 3 people come in. One was the council administrator, and we had Larry Dodd came in, and Mark Kilmer came in. And we sat down and talked, and we talked about Barron Creek was a lot of it at that particular time. Afterwards, the council president chastised him, wanted to know why he came in to talk. And so I don't know. You tell me. I would like to know why. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's fine. But we have different opinions, but talking it out is the way to do it. I feel that we need to sit down and talk and communicate. Why go out and become argumentative or adversarial at the front of a council meeting? When a lot of times we can talk about certain things like, okay, Mark might need this in his district, Joe might need this in his district, that they want to have done. It could be anything from a tile pipe to a bad tree that needs to be cut down. Call me or come in those days and say, look, I've gotten a list from so-and-so wants to have this done, or a dirt road, especially in Joe Holloway's section. There's several dirt roads that are county roads, and they'll come back to us and tell us the washboard effect or something like that. And we're more than happy to take care of it. Or, Joe, if you've got a chance, go ahead and call, Lee Alton and somebody like that and take care of it. It's fine. I don't have the previous administration had the fact that everything had to come through the executive's office. I don't feel that way. I mean, these 7 men are leaders of the county. So if you need to call a department head and say, look, can you do this for me, or can you make sure this is taken care of? I'm happy with that. I want to work it out. I'm not some sort of dictator that I want to have this done, but I am a businessman, and I am the leader of Wycomico County, and make no mistakes about it. When things go wrong, it falls back on my plate, and I'm the one that has to answer for it. And I'm a big enough man to say I do. I've made mistakes, but at the same time, let's all work together. Why fight each other?
Because we talked a moment ago about people coming into your office from the council. Mm-hmm. What about outreach in the other direction? That if you contacted people one-on-one, been proactive in that sense?
You're talking about the council people?
Yeah, council people, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a good example. We're reworking the personnel manual now, okay? I have written 2 letters. I say I, as well as Paul Wilbur, have written 2 letters, county attorney, that this manual, the changes that they're making, are illegal with federal law. You can't do this. You don't even know what the ramifications are. And I've asked to sit down and talk, and they don't want to sit down. They're going to pass this new personnel manual without ever being, taking into account what HR says is legal and what's not legal. And for that, I think is wrong. So we had 10 amendments on the last charter amendments that were made on the last election. They were not vetted properly. You can tell me what you want to. You can't go out and vet something properly within three-month period of time. I've asked for term limits. I asked for discussion on term limits. I was told that we'll bring that up when we're ready to talk about charter amendments for this next election. Well, we're less than a year away from that. I think that people of Wycomico County need a certain amount of time. We all have other things on our plate. We don't just listen to what happens on either PAC 14, or we don't have time to go to a council meeting and know what's going on. And honestly, there's not always a reporter at the daily or at the meetings from the Daily Times or from Salisbury Independent, so that they could actually write on what happens. They have to watch it a lot of times on PAC 14. So the point is that I believe we know this is something coming up. Why not get it out early? Why not talk about it now? Because the next election is when it comes up, instead of waiting till the last 3 months to decide whether or not we're going to do anything.
Speaking of term limits, you're obviously running for your second term.
Yes.
You ready to commit to say, hey, after my second term, I'm done, if you really believe in term limits, or how many limits do you think there should be?
It's obvious the council wants me to go a lot longer because they don't want to put term limits into effect. But so I guess I'm going to ride this thing out as far as I can go. I'm not sure, but I'll be 70 at the end of my second term, and you get to a point where I believe any good executive will burn out after 10 years. And with ideas, with creative ways, that kind of stuff. And I don't want to see it become stagnant. It doesn't say that I couldn't go back on council. It doesn't say that I couldn't go to Annapolis and work within the state government. But at the same time, I believe that I've got a great staff. Weston Young coming along is a great young man. He's smart. He listens well. He's learning very well. So Wayne and I will be gone. And then we'll have younger people taking over. And I'm looking at that in every department. Our roads department, our solid waste. We're all getting long in the tooth, as they say, some of us here, and we need to start the young ones in. And that's what my first 3 years has been, trying to put people in those places. When those positions open up, we want to go ahead and have someone that will be able to stay with the county for another 15, 20 years. History is good. I was in a meeting the other day, and it's so funny. Many of them don't remember Salisbury a long time ago because we were talking about contaminated soil down on Main Street there. They didn't realize that the parking lot across from the Chamber of Commerce building used to have a filling station there also. And I remodeled 111 Baptist Street many, many years ago, and there was a printing company there. Martin Printing Company was there, and you've got to have history that some of these things. I feel like I don't want to be the next John Jacobs and write a book on it, but I do remember these things. Being 65, I remember these things, and more than happy to share it with the younger ones.
In terms of the situation with the breakaway fire company that broke away from the Salisbury City Fire Department. You've had some conflict obviously with the council about that. You wanted some territory. They said no. There was an agreement. Are you disappointed that there wasn't some kind of special carve-out for them? There wasn't some kind of funding? And what kind of impact do you think that's going to have, if any? Well,
all right, let's be honest. Lay our cards on the table on that one. I never fought for any group of people, whether it be the Station 13 now or, some of those people. I knew a lot of them because I've been here a while. But I fought for the process. It's always been that the chiefs have decided whether territory is needed, whether it should be split up or whatever. That's what I fought for. When we did the agreement with the city of Salisbury, it's a great agreement, and I appreciate everything that the mayor has put forth and everything else. But there was two maps drawn up. One showed where the new station would go once it was approved by the chief. You could not put that in the agreement until it was approved, and it was not approved by the state or locally. Once it got approved, that's what's supposed to happen on the outside of the bypass. That being said, that second map would never have come into effect until they were approved. That never got out. Unfortunately, there was some statements made that were not quite truthful, and I'm sorry that happened. Do I feel that that company is needed? I don't know. I'm not a fire chief. I don't know what turnout times are or whatever else. The Fire Chiefs Association has determined that they should have that territory. either due to coverage or whatever. We're finding now that a lot of companies are on the outside of Salisbury. When you talking about outside of Fruitland, Delmar, Parsonsburg, are coming into Salisbury a lot and covering a lot of calls for them. I don't know if Salisbury is getting too many calls or not. That's something Chief Hoppus would have to tell you, and where it is. I hate to see it become just a money thing, and that's what I'm afraid this is all created. But as far as what I did, I protected the process, not the people, and I will still stand by that.
One of the big issues that's come up recently are the large chicken houses. We had a situation just near Salisbury where there's some plans. Initially, I think they're now down to about 10. I think is
West
what
Road.
Yeah. And when I was talking to a lot of the local folks there who are going to be living near there, they were not happy with with what was adopted by the county. I got the impression, by the way, that you weren't sure that there was any need for regulation initially, and then things sort of moved along, and you kind of accepted what was basically the recommendation of the Delmarva poultry industry folks. What do you say to those people who say, this wasn't enough? I mean, and I've been out there. I'm sure you've been out there as well. You can see where those trucks and the rest of it are going to go, and it is close to where these people live.
I grew up within a quarter mile of that, directly as the crow flies. I know the area very well. It's always been a rural agricultural area. Now, yes, Canterbury Acres has been put in, and there's been another subdivision on Narrow Mill Road. It's not that I didn't care. If you'll remember, the first thing I did was have a forum with all the state leaders, and Mr. Bassett, Greg Bassett, was actually the moderator at the time. I don't know what water quality control is. I do know that I spent almost $15,000 having a geologist go out there and determine at what level would the water be penetrated by the chicken manure to interfere with the paleo channel. The depth that they said was 4 to 5 feet, I believe. Paleo channel is 75 feet below the surface of ground there. So that was no reason to not to go with something. But that being said, in effect, the large chicken houses, or the commercial, industrial type chicken houses, hit us all by surprise. I didn't realize they were going that big at the time. Do I feel that it's okay location? Yes, I have no problem with the location, but I did try to get into it and to determine what was safe and what was not safe, and I don't want anything that's not safe for the people. The biggest thing I could see is that after we did all this, we went through hearing after hearing for almost about a year, and they adopted the exactly same thing that we were more than willing to do in the first place. And I know that there's still lawsuits pending and that kind of stuff, and that's fine. But I'll challenge somebody. If you ride down Snow Hill Road and just past Nutter's Crossroad, there's a chicken farm on the right-hand side. I believe one of the Doug Parsons, or one of the Parsons boys owns it. You cannot find a prettier farm than that. Now, is it safe underground? I assume that it is. It's not been done. It's just the fact that it's big. Get used to it. This is an agricultural area.
Well, let me just raise a issue about that, because I raised this question about with somebody from the industry as well. Is that it's you can talk about the studies and whether or not there's any impact, and this is an agricultural area. But what seems to be the impact ultimately is that I've heard from people who live near these things that there are smells, there are real problems because they are so large, and they're saying in effect is we moved here with the understanding that this would be basically an agricultural area, but not an industrial agricultural area. And it seems almost cold to say, well, you knew what you were getting into, and it's tough.
What was it, 25 years ago, we started putting on every plat we did the right to farm. So that's on every plat, on every subdivision. It's been done since back in the 70s.
Right, but we're talking about something that's dramatically changed. That is large chicken houses. Because when I talk to these people, they say the small ones, that's fine. We've lived with those for years. It's the big ones that live next to these.
So you would say it's okay to put 20 chicken houses on the smaller, half the size. So
it's located where it's located. So if for instance, if a large operation is say out away from say a residential area of some kind, that would be one thing, right? What they're saying in fact is, but the problem is that these things are now being built near these various little small developments, and that's the difference.
Maybe we should look at rezoning all of our land and saying you can't build within the metro core area or within that. And I have no problem with that. We had one that was approved for 11 to Shield Road that's within the growth management plan, and I agree with you on that. That should not have happened. It's because you're looking at what we call the Hope Farm, which is the largest single farm of 700 acres, one block of land altogether. owned by E.S. Atkins Company. That could easily be a golf course. It could be homes. If City Water ever gets out there, you could have as many as 500, 600 homes. And I agree with you 100% on that. That I think we've started taking under consideration. Of course, now we've missed it. There's no chicken houses being built now. We were behind. We should have, when we first heard about it happening in Virginia, we probably should have done that. That happened just about the year 14, 15. I had just gotten into office, and there was enough to learn where the bathroom was, let alone, take care of all the CAFO problems. But.
Right. I wanted, by the way, to ask you, in downtown there is a plaque to of Confederate General Winder, who was in charge of the prisons. For the Confederacy, and there's been a great deal of controversy. I know that people have talked about who's responsible for it, whether it's the city, it's the county, whether it's the state, or so on. Putting that aside as whether or not the county can do anything about it, what's your own feeling about this plaque being there?
Personally, I don't have a problem, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I didn't put it there. I don't know why it was put there. I do remember reading about Mr. Greer moving it off the highway over to there. Why the Historic Commission ever decided that that's what they wanted to have, I don't know. That's before my time. Being on the courthouse, I have no problem with it there. I mean, do I have a problem with somebody else putting another one there? No, I don't have a problem as long as they were, a historic figure. And I don't know how historic he actually was, to be honest with you, why it was put there. But I'm not here to change history. I'm not going to change history. But let me give you one quick answer. You don't know what it is. The Historical Commission is the one that decides whether to be done. The placement of that was done before my time. The one that has a decision now is me. I run the county. All real estate is taken care of by the executive's office. So you can say we went to the council, we did this. The decision is Bob Culver's, and I'm not going to move it because it bothers a few people. If you want to, let's put it on the ballot and decide what it goes. What defense, do you have later on? If I don't like, the color of your walls here, am I going to say that, 4 of us get together, you should paint these walls? Will you do that? That's not democracy. Democracy is, 51% rules, and that's how I'm going to plan on keeping it.
Well, in terms of being offensive, and the people who talk about this, and there's a lot of people in the African American community as well as others. As I've said to somebody before, this isn't about somebody insulting your wife. This is about a symbol of deep division within this country in terms of race, and particularly this general who apparently has very little connection with the city of Salisbury. In effect, if we allow it to stay, there's a large section of the population that's going to be not just simply offended, but it's going to be a reminder of these kinds of divisions. That's a much different proposition than just simply being offended.
I don't agree with you, Don, because I find that it's been there for what, 25, 30 years, 40 years? I'm not sure how long it's been there. I don't know that I ever recognized it. I didn't know it was there either. There's a placard on the ground that says Bird's Tavern. I didn't realize that's where slaves were sold. Do I agree with that? No. Heck no. I would never have participated in anything like that or done that. My family never did. We've been here since 1700. But the point is let's learn a little bit more about it. And just because someone from the outside decides to come in here and stir this up.
Well, there are people from the county inside this city that are.
When was it brought to a head? When someone from outside came in and brought it up? Yes. So there it goes. I mean, let us decide for ourselves what we want. We are Wycomico Countyans, and as much as I love people to come here and learn from them, learn their history, learn what they had in their towns and communities. They moved here because they liked us, not because of a plaque or not having a plaque here. And so we have a lot bigger fish to fry than one plaque sign. That doesn't mean a thing to me. I don't care where you can move it down to Nanticoke if you want to. If the Historic Commission wants to do that. But what I'm not going to do is get into a match of a verbal match as to what's right, what's wrong. I would not want to see anything like that happen again, nor would Mary Ashante. I respect her. She's a wonderful person. Yes, there are feelings on both sides, but I have feelings too that things should change it. I don't like certain things that I'm not going to be offended by it and say you've got to change it. That's you.
Let me turn to the issue of the city versus the county area. As I understand it, the city sort of sits in basically in one of the districts. What kind of differences do you see between the county concerns and city concerns? But I was talking to Jack, he's a matter of fact who's running, looks like he'll be running against you. He talked about, obviously he knew a lot about the city, particularly Salisbury, but other cities, and he was going to acquaint himself, as it were, with some of the issues in the rural areas. What do you see as a difference between cities on the one hand and the county rural areas on the other?
If you were to ask me what I would do if I had the choice of starting Wycomico County all over again, it's first thing, there would be no charters for these cities. It would all be county ridden, just like Palm Beach County, Florida, things like that. We have one government. Do you realize how much money these city taxpayers would save if it was all run by one government? I mean, the roads division, the water division, I believe that all the sewer plants in Wycomico County should be under a central sewer commission, and that all the testing is done by one group, so that you don't have these little fractions and these little, what if Pittsfield's system failed? Would Willard's take over? Where all these problems are? You would have all the money would go into one pot and start deciding that way. Whether it's me or anybody else that comes down the road behind me, you've got better control, or you've got better of what's going to go on. We have a sheriff's office, which is a big part of our budget also. They come into the city just as much as they do into the county. Let's be honest, there's 44.6% of Wycomico Countyans live in the city municipalities, because the lines keep getting further. So our county sheriff's office no longer just takes care of the county, it takes care of the cities. They go into every town in here. So that would be the biggest part, I would say. I don't disagree with Jack on many things. I think Jack's a great guy. I mean, he seems very nice. I mean, in some ways we have very strong same feelings. We're a big supporter of MAC. I believe that we need to take care of our elderly. We need to take care of our children, that kind of thing. But where I differ would be just like I did with Rick Powell on policy. Wycomico County has not raised its taxes in the 3 years since I've taken over, yet I've increased my savings account by $10 million. We now have, between rainy day funds, savings account, and everything, over $60 million. The city of Salisbury has raised every fee they can possibly raise, and they've raised the taxes the last 2 years, I'm sorry. So you tell me, what's the difference? I believe in cutting back and making your dollar go as far as it possibly can, until I need to charge for another dollar. The city is, these festivals they've got going are wonderful. I think it's great, and I wish them well. But will the county be participating? I mean, not till I know that everything is right. We're trying to get straight right now on the marathon. We need to know how these roads are going to be protected. How are we going to do that? So we asked for a road plan 6 months in advance. It's 5 months now. We're already 30 days behind. We've got to study that and make sure that the people on Riverside Drive, how will people in Timberlake get out of their homes? How will people in Carriage Hill, how will people through end of Woodland Road get out when we're going to block off Riverside Drive? And they say it won't be blocked both sides, but you're going to have 1,000, 1,500 people running down there. How do emergency vehicles? Will they all have to go one way? And I'm sure that's what's going to have to go. They're going to have to go up to what would be Sharp Point Road or Shad Point Road, something like that. So, all that's got to be worked out, and it takes time. Government doesn't work fast, but it works well if you give it a chance to give it time.
Is that a critique of the city? I mean, are you saying the city is not as well managed?
Oh, I'm not saying it's not well managed. Jake has got the best energy. I wish I had his energy.
So do we know.
Don't we all? But not to be critical, but sometimes you need more advanced time. We're talking about a major festival 10 months away. How do you plan? We start with the USAA tournament, the Triple SA tournament for the girls softball the week after the tournament is here. This year we're expecting 20,000 people. The city of Salisbury is expecting 150,000 people. And at the meeting they just had with the county council, they said, well, we'll probably start our quarterly meeting soon. Quarterly? I would be doing weekly right now and knowing where everything is. So, I hope it pulls off and it all comes out great for them. I really do.
Have you talked to Jake Day about this?
We've had one meeting.
I mean, in terms of like having more meetings and getting things moving.
No, it's not my part.
But it is going to affect you if the city brings it in. It's going to impact you no matter what you do.
We asked for a meeting. Okay, Wayne and I asked for a meeting, and it took almost 45 days to get a meeting together.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. You'll have to talk to Jake. You know.
Maybe we will. I don't know.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I know Jake has a lot of obligations with a young family and everything like that. And like I say, I think Jake is wonderful. I think the role of his parents and all that. But I'm going to differ with him like I differ with Jack and I differ with Rick Powell on before. But, again, when we did the 150th anniversary, the most important guest I had there that night was Rick Powell, because he had started saving the money for the courthouse. And I admire him for doing that, and I pointed that out.
By the way, just one other thing. You mentioned criticize the city in terms of raising taxes.
No, I'm not criticizing you.
Well, you pointed this out.
I pointed out
as
difference in management styles.
So is that a bad thing that they raise taxes to fit their needs? Or
Do I think this last thing they just passed, $250 fine for shoveling your sidewalk into the street? I think that's ridiculous. The city last year, I can give you 4 or 5 examples where the streets never even got plowed. And when they did get plowed, the next day they froze up so hard that they looked like ruts going through there. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Let's admit that. I'm not going to charge somebody $250. And yet, at the meeting when they approved it, the gentleman stood up and said, well, can you put this into the bill that you're going after the commercial pushers of Target and that kind of stuff, is what Jake used as an example. And Jack then said, well, I think he's already said that. That's enough. Well, laws last a lot longer than term mayors or term executives. So it needs to be written in the law like it is. $500, I don't smoke, but $500 to be caught smoking on city property, city sidewalk or something like that, where are they pulling these fines up from? That's just, to me, I just think is ridiculous. If you really want to find somebody $25. And, like the seatbelt. You can get caught without a seatbelt on. It doesn't cost you $500. So, and that's, to me, is just as important.
So you optimistic, obviously, you think you're going to win your second term?
I mean, so.
People say that, but I don't know. You never know.
I don't take anything for granted. I'm like the attorney that goes into the courtroom. I know the answer before I get there, and I will work this one just like I worked the last election. I hope people are happy with what I've done. I feel like they are. A lot of them. I get a lot of positive response, but I'm not here for a popularity contest. As I've said all along, I'm here as a CEO. I'm a businessman. I run this like a business. I have saved the money for things. My worst part, and I'll give you my drawbacks for what I feel like my first term has been. When I came in, Rick Powell's office had let go of their PIA, the Public Information Officer, PIO. I didn't replace that person. And that's probably been my biggest mistake. I've not been able to get out what good things we've done, the schools, the tuitions, all that kind of stuff, what we've saved money on. I mean, do you realize that what I saved in taking the birthday away in the cars, which was the first thing that happened, has saved over $1 million. Our payroll was, with benefits, $180,000 a day. Now, that's not like the hospital, don't get me wrong, not like SU, I'm sure. But at the same time, it's $180,000 of your tax money that I'm trying to save, because productivity is money. And so that's $1 million. That equates to about 2 cents on your tax bill if I let that $1 million go. So, yes, so that's what I'm here for, and that's what I feel like I was elected for. I will continue to do that. I will look at it, it's the best possible way. Am I going to continue to make mistakes? Yes, sir. I hope I do, because that way I'm still alive and I'm still, learning something every day. But if I make it, I'm going to own it. And I promise you that. And again, I have made mistakes and things that I wish I had gotten out earlier than what I did, things like that.
We've been speaking with the Wacomico County Executive, Bob Culver, who is running for a second term. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. So,
this has been Delmarva Today. I'm Don Rush. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for watching Delmarva Today, a production of Delmarva Public Radio. Production and audio engineering by Chris Rank. Hosted by Don Rush. For podcasts, visit delmarvapublicradio.net or subscribe to the Delmarva Today podcast on iTunes. Delmarva Today can now be seen on Pack 14.